This is Profila going live for the first time. So for anyone who's jumping on in the next couple of minutes, we'll just be introducing Profila, telling a little bit of the co-founders' background stories, and a little bit of a short demo on the platform at the end. Many people who know us individually, Sean, Michiel, and Luke, we started the project in 2017 with a bold vision to solve for privacy. So what I'll do is just ask Michiel and Luke to introduce themselves very briefly first, just name who you are, and then we'll go into the history of Profila and some of the origin stories. We've had a lot of fun. Michiel.
Yes, hi Sean. Hello community. My name is Michiel Rui. I'm a tech and privacy lawyer living in Brussels, Belgium, and a big crypto enthusiast.
And Luke.
Luke Bragg, originally from the United States, live in Switzerland. Joined Profila a long time ago. Responsible for a whole bunch of different things for Profila.
Awesome. So let's start at the beginning. The concept for Profila I had many years ago at the telco when I was implementing Google search servers, and just the power of this technology when we were implementing it, this big yellow box into the racks in a data center. And I realized that there's so much power in the hands of big tech to get hold of everyone's data. And that's where the spark came. And I'm almost embarrassed to talk about the first name of Profila. It was mycentralrecord.com back in the days. That was about 2006, actually, the first time where I pitched the concept of how do you control your data set in some sort of vault so that you can get value for it. But fast forward quite a few years into 2017. So I had the great opportunity to take a big chance in life and do a startup that I always wanted to. And the mission was to solve for privacy. And I actually met Michiel through putting up an ad on AngelList because I knew if you want to solve for privacy that I have to have a lawyer as a co-founder. And within a couple of weeks, actually, I think you've still got the post, Michiel.
I recently checked our email exchanges in the beginning, in the deck that you sent me. Looking for a co-founder with privacy experience. That was it, something
exactly. And Michiel at the time was working at CERN in Geneva as an IP and data protection lawyer. So we met up and he immediately fell in love with the project. And then we actually started collaborating with CERN in Geneva, the birthplace of the web, and their privacy department on how to solve for privacy. So Michiel, maybe just a little bit of our adventures at CERN, because we did spend a cool year going back and forth to Geneva.
Yeah, so we've at that point I was working as a technology transfer lawyer at CERN, closely working also with the data privacy team. And the problem at CERN is, for those who don't know it, the European Center for Nuclear Research is one of the largest scientific experiments in the world. It's home of the Large Hadron Collider, which is a particle accelerator that is paid for by all of the EU member states. And so the idea is that there's about 11,000 scientists working there and about 100,000 people visiting, and they're collaborating with research institutes and universities all around the world to try to understand better particle physics in the Standard Model. Now, you have these 11,000 researchers affiliated to different universities from different countries. You have 100,000 visitors, you have suppliers. It's almost a city by itself. They have more than 50 buildings. It's an enormous enterprise there. And the data privacy department tried to really understand, okay, what personal data are we processing from our employees, because we also do background checks and we know health-related data, from our contractors, from our research assistants and affiliated entities, from our 100,000 visitors that are coming, and from our thousands and thousands of suppliers. And so they quickly understood it's all in silos. One department has a bit of information, another department has a bit of information. If a contractor, an employee, a supplier, or a visitor would ask the data privacy team something about their data, where it's stored, who has access to it, they would almost not know where to find it, and let alone action it. And so the exercise was there to try to create a Q&A or a chatbot to, from the one hand, to try to collect as much information as possible on the inside about where is your data, who stores it, and how it is processed, and then make an interface with all of these different stakeholders that are linked to CERN, from employees to suppliers to visitors, so that when these people would ask a question about their data, it would query from that knowledge base of documentations and policies back to the individual. And so that's where we're trying to find this first version of an application where you as an individual could understand better what kind of information does this specific entity hold about me, and how can I communicate with them. Yeah, so that was the first test.
I remember it was quite a successful launch. We had quite a few brands attend a big presentation at the end where we demonstrated a chatbot, and we asked people to raise their hands. How many of you actually care about your privacy and want to do something about it? And that was our first motivation to keep the project actually going. So we had a formal collaboration with CERN for over a year. And I think we learned some foundationals there, that Profila, can't only be focused on privacy, because yes, everyone wants it, but it wasn't important enough for them to go to an app and to worry about it and pursue another brand to actually get them to fix their data. So then we took, another step in the journey. And in 2018, I was introduced by a colleague to Luke. And what Luke did for us as a company is he brought a lot of his expertise in ecosystem design into Profila. So Luke, maybe just take us a little bit back. I popped a video up on X actually the other day of us designing our first privacy ecosystem, and that's where I think we realized the world that we're impacting.
Yeah. It was April 2018 at a sushi restaurant.
Yep.
And then you came over a week or so later to my home. We sat down and talked, and a lot of it was you were talking about the same things that I care about. I'm a political scientist by education. So the ideas of sovereignty and agency are very core to how I see the world and what I want in the world. And you were talking about these sort of things. And yeah, once we started looking at the larger ecosystem, and this really was mapping the actors within an organization, imagining a large organization that sells consumer goods, for instance. And we understood very quickly that our messaging couldn't be just for the company. It had to be, okay, well, the CMO cares about these things, but the compliance folks care about something else, and then understanding how to actually penetrate an organization to get all the different actors, all the different stakeholders within an organization to be comfortable with what we were trying to build. So I think that was the big lesson, is that it's not just, okay, can we sell it to Nike or Radisson or whoever? It's how can we make sure that they are enthusiastic about what they're trying to do with us, and all the actors involved internally are comfortable with that. And that's a much more sophisticated and complicated process than just selling a bunch of widgets to somebody. So I think that was the origin of that. And yeah, so it was. Go ahead.
No, I think that phase of bringing you onto the team and understanding, the whole world impacted by privacy really helped us to take the next step, and from there, with a lot of people helping us along the way, to collaborate and network, we managed to do research with the University of St. Gallen. It was some of their MBA students. And out of that research, we asked them to solve for privacy, but also what is your data worth? And the results of that research was quite simple, but profound in the direction of how we were going to build the company. And it was three things, that privacy is important to us, but we're apathetic. Everyone clicks the cookies to accept, to get it out of the way. And we also don't know really what to do about it, because it seems to be this big problem that's too hard to solve for an individual. The second was important, that everyone realized their data is valuable, but how valuable? Is at the time and still today, your data, if you try to sell it individually, is worth a couple of dollars, maybe 20, 30, or if you're selling everything, it could get a little bit more, but in a once-off type way. The most important thing they said to me and us as a team when they presented back was, if we're going to do this by giving you privacy and giving you time and attention and data, we want stuff, okay, which is human nature. If we're going to spend our time giving something, we want value in return. And I think that's where we founded the company mission of, human agency, because choice always comes first, then privacy, because some people love to share everything. If they're obsessed with a brand, they'll share everything. But some people are very reserved in exchange for value and valued relationships. And I think
just to cut in for a second, and I think if you think about some of the other research projects we did, especially with Hochschule and Soren, with the marketing master's students, that was actually having them go out and talk to brands, talk to companies in this area, with a simple question: if you could know anything more about your customer, what would it be? And it was interesting that the marketing managers they talked to at the beginning, it took them a while to think about that, because they're so constrained by the tools that they have now, which is unethical, incomplete, inaccurate data that they're trying to figure out how some way to put an ad or an offer in front of you. And so with St. Gallen, we obviously from the individual side, from these other projects with Hochschule from the brand side, and that was when I started saying, well, we're actually in the relationship business, because what we were seeing in the markets or initiatives or whatever it was kind of two camps. Either it was somebody building a new SaaS for marketers to stalk better, or it was kind of really privacy fanatics, I guess, who said, "Oh, we're going to put a NAS in your basement and with all your private data, and corporations are evil." And we knew neither one of those models had much of a future. It was, okay, how do we create better relationships between these entities? Build trust, and if we do this correctly, then there'll be relationship types that we can't even imagine now. Because right now we're hemmed in by the fact that nobody trusts anybody. And if a brand, if Google says don't be evil, well, after a while we kind of assume that they are. Oh no, live stream. So the idea of saying, well, how can we design this from both sides already, so that brands are getting incredible value because they're getting a source of data, the zero-party data that they've never had access to before, and can allow them to put people in a much more accurate target segment. And I always say it's not creepy because they told them, that I told a brand this information. And for an individual saying, well, here's the information I will share, here's what I won't share. But again, as you said, Sean, I expect value from this. And that's, going back to even Forrester's definition of zero-party data. It's something that I'm sharing with the knowledge that it's not going to be used by you or any organization beyond value for me. That's the purpose of it. It's not for them to sell. It's not for them to manipulate. It's for them to create value for me, and hopefully make me a better customer, and I get more value out of it as a customer.
Absolutely. And just a flashback while we're here, because I remember, Michiel, our first IAPP conference in Brussels, and that's how we started the company. It wasn't with, oh, we're going to build an app or a product. We literally joined up as a team saying, we've got to solve this challenge, and how are we going to do it? And we're running around there pitching our project and concept, and trying to get people to give us ideas. And I think over the last 7 years, we've spoken to thousands of brands and people, and that's been excellent for us, because we would have started and delivered something to market much sooner. But I think, Luke, we've got probably hundreds of iterations of what the product could look like. And I think the tipping point for us when we started building stuff also started in 2018, 19, because we were introduced to the Cardano community in 2017 by Dr. Belieru, who at the time was heading up the startup ventures and impact projects. And the first concept was, the first reaction was, this is too big. Do you guys really think you're going to solve this? And it's like, I'm not interested. And then 1 year later, it's like, okay, you're onto something, And what were we onto? It wasn't a specific technology choice. It was the user experience. And I think if there's anything we've done as a company is obsess over what are people going to do, what habits do they need to form to actually be able to control their biggest asset, which is data and their privacy, in exchange for value. And I think that helped us to decide what we implemented from the blockchain side and what we didn't. And from day one, we've had a multi-chain strategy, but the Cardano community really backed us throughout the years. And since 2017, our first project was a privacy rights assertion process logged to the blockchain. That was our first Catalyst fund. And now we're 12 Catalyst funds in that we've been granted. Thank you. And 13th one coming. And we've
and that's a
learned
key
a lot,
point that nobody could have done this 20 years ago because the technology didn't exist. The technology was centralized. So blockchain and I said this at the summit in the panel, blockchains come along at a perfect time to be able to create that trust, create that predictability and reliability. And then Cardano, with its mindset, with its worldview, is exactly the right blockchain to do this. So it's a perfect meld of technology and the time and the needs.
The privacy problem has also become, because I've always looked at it from a privacy angle as a privacy lawyer. The privacy problem has become considerably larger with the rise of the internet, and with digital marketing being so important. People buy everything nowadays online. So that was for me the biggest aha moment while going from privacy background to now this more marketing focused company, because digital marketing is one of the first use cases for us. That a multi-$100 billion industry is built on spray painting stuff to people who don't necessarily told you that they want to see it. And it seems just so extremely inefficient to try to shoot 1,000 times to try to hit once, just because that's the way it's now done. And I think what Luke, you say now, with technology that is available and with Web3 technology that it is available, there should be a way better version of that. It should be possible what we're building. Now the question is it the Profila platform that is going to be the winner at the end? We of course believe so, but I'm 100% sure that within 5 to 10 years, there will be some version of the internet that is what we envisage. Meaning the user has the control, where a brand directly connects to you, where you only see what you want to see when you want to see it.
And going back to the technology angle, think about your example of shooting 1,000 times hoping to hit once. That's because the technology made it the marginal cost of each additional shot was nothing. So why not take 1 million shots to get one? There's no downside. And a brand can't measure the annoyance of all those other people who didn't hit. They're very annoyed that they saw whatever you're trying to sell them. They have no feedback loop for that. So the technology actually enabled kind of a lazy thinking, a very inefficient thinking and ineffective, because each additional try or shot or ad or email newsletter or whatever didn't cost them anything in any real value. That created some very, very bad habits that we're now living in that world of those bad habits. And bad habits are very difficult to change.
But they cost money. They cost money. A brand who sends an ad to somebody who doesn't necessarily buy.
But it's so small now. I think it's so small that there's no incentive not to. Because the ROI could be good, but they just don't know. And that's the challenge is better technology and better mindset, and also just the social aspects need to evolve in that direction.
So I think one of the next key points in the history of our project was bringing on a great advisor, very senior and experienced in the ad tech industry, Mikko Kotila. And with his help, we actually collaborated with the University of Madrid for over a year and a bit, and designed a zero-knowledge advertising protocol. So the whole concept behind this research, which we've still got and we're going to be implementing it in the next year or two, is to be able to expand the solution of privacy and data sharing outside of a walled garden, even of Profila. So that also made us think larger as to, well, how do we solve for privacy on a website, privacy in somebody's app? And that is part of the strategy, to have an SDK that links to your core Profila, which is your data set that you want to share, that can be bolted onto another app as the profile section. And then the future that we see for the internet is that you'll go to a web page, you'll have the options to log in with many different accounts. One will be Profila, and then your whole internet experience changes. So at least if you hit a paywall, which we hope disappear, and you have to look at content to fund, the newspaper article, at least it's something that's highly relevant to your life, that you want to see. And in that way, you're getting a personalized experience. And I think it's important, in our discussion with hundreds of different brands in different industries, the biggest revelation for me personally was that the process we've implemented in Profila, and those who hang on to the end will show you the platform, can be run in any vertical industry. We chose to solve for privacy in advertising first because, you know, the social dilemma and the big rage around tracking on the industry has always started in the ad tech world. Plus, there's so much wastage there, 60-70% of ad fraud and, you know, as we just mentioned, wasted marketing, that we see a very, very big opportunity to disrupt if people really do get to decide who they want to pay attention to. And kudos to the Brave team. You know, they've started with the basic attention token and creating a great browser that's got all these privacy bells and whistles. But in the research, the professors who've been studying Facebook and ad tech for 15 plus years, you know, classified us as an active zero knowledge protocol and platform, whereas Brave is a passive. You know, because whatever you search, it takes that context, you're still private, and then advertisers have the choice to look at your search history and be able to present you with content. Profila is really relying on you as the person, you know, to do something. So if you want to take control of your digital life, as we say it, and it's an overused term, but it is as simply as you getting involved, creating a profile, telling brands what you want and don't want, how often you want to see their content or not. You know, and in the past, and a lot of brands we spoke to years ago, it's like customers are dumb. You know, we can't trust them to do all this fancy stuff. But the world has changed technologically in the last 5 years or 10 years beyond belief. So every single person has a phone now, and everyone knows how to upload an image, how to send a message. So why can't they tell a brand, this is what I want and don't want? You know, so don't track me. These are the channels that I want to see you in. Luke.
And it's a response to clutter as well. We all have so many inboxes. You know, I have a Christmas project to go through all my Instagram bookmarks and my
Hi, Lena,
Facebook
by the
bookmarks.
way, on chat. Karen, Luke.
Yeah, no, we have so many inboxes and so many feeds of information that our life is so overwhelmed because, again, someone else is making that choice. They're making that choice. Who's going to show up in my email inbox? Who's going to show up in my Instagram feed that, you know, stuff that I didn't ask for or request, or 90% of my Facebook feed is stuff that I didn't ask for. It's not my friends and family. Those first years of Facebook after it went beyond universities were incredible in reconnecting with people and seeing people's lives. Now Messenger helps, but the Facebook feed I rarely go to anymore. And that's the environment that everybody's competing in for your time, and they have to get louder and louder and more provocative. And you know, if you think about this new Jaguar ad, well, I'm sure Jaguar is sitting there going, well, at least people are talking about us. They're making fun of us, but they're talking about us. And that's probably a win for them in the current incentive structure, which is really sad.
Yeah, I think that's what we learned too from speaking to brands and marketeers is it's an obsession, and I think they know it. It's an unhealthy obsession with awareness marketing and metrics, you know, which are vanity metrics. How many clicks did I get? How many likes? You know, how many views, regardless of whether they're legitimate or not. And surprising to me, you know, that the industry, one of the hardest things to prove is return on ad spend. You know, so did that actual ad result in someone buying the product? You know, they still don't have a direct connection, which is what we're trying to solve for in the platform too, because you're in a private space. And I think, Tim, let's jump into now what we've actually built. You know,
Maybe,
and we'll show a bit the heel.
Yeah, maybe as a good introduction, we of course want to build something that is a little bit familiar. So that's why maybe it looks a little bit like you're used to on Instagram or on LinkedIn, for example. But it's something that completely doesn't exist. We consider it like a control center almost, where you decide what information that you share. And if we talk about it with consumers, it's almost like with people, it's almost like a no-brainer. They say, of course, why doesn't that exist? If we talk about it with brands, they would love to use it because it's better than what exists now today. It has just taken a while to build it, and I think we're all very excited to show you now for the first time live what the platform looks like, and walk you through it, explain you how Zeek functions as our token in it. So voila. Let's give you a demo now.
Yeah, and McKinley, you make a good point that, you know, the look and feel is like a social media feed. And whenever I'm doing a demo, I have to say, well, you know, why is this person receiving this feed? You know, this ad. That's how it's different. That's how it's unlike anything else. It's not some magical algorithm that's deciding for me. It's a data relationship that I've consented to. It's the transparency, what I'm sharing with them. It's their ability to put me in a more accurate segment and then actually, send me things that are relevant for me. And that's, that's not obvious from the design, but it's obvious from the architecture and then the worldview that we have.
Yeah. So
Anyway, on to you,
Luke
Sean.
spent, yeah, cool. And I'm looking at a different screen, guys. So just shout at me if I lose track. And we are live. So if you're on X or YouTube or LinkedIn, you can send us a message and we'll try to answer any of your questions as we go through. But I think Luke, with his design team, took a minimalist approach. Okay. And the idea with Profiler is to see one piece of content at a time and to immerse yourself in it. So immediately you can see that there is a singular feed which looks familiar, but it also isn't going to be cluttered with any content you don't want to see. This is a brand in South Africa that's actually trialing with us at the moment, whose target market is higher net worth individuals who want to have a private relationship with an exclusive auto reseller and not share all of their data, but not miss out on the best offer that they could have. So in that way, we're offering a private service. And this is where we're very clear with the industry is we're not search. We're not a social platform. So you don't share in the platform with anyone. This is between you and the companies that you want a relationship with. Okay, and I think that is extremely important when you're looking at the IDA marketing principle, which is awareness first, which is the obsession of all marketeers. Next comes interest. And our strategy is to tell brands that, okay, as soon as somebody is interested in your brand, bring them to a private place, because there you can do much better personalization. But just from the feed of content, we've got all the capabilities to do player videos in video. We can run campaigns. We've got a whole lot of profiler explainers. We're doing a demo later for a well-known soccer team, one of their advisors. So it's not with them at the moment. But a lot of this is also campaign driven. So the content that you're seeing is based on information that you've shared with the brand itself. The only time Profiler will nudge you is if you do not look at content. Okay, because our principle is don't waste your time and don't waste the company's dollar. So if you're seeing content, and this feature which Luke came up with on Metronome will be your own preference center in the future. So if you're going on holiday, you can dial it down or switch it off. Or if you're obsessed, you can turn it all the way up. Luke, 1 or 2 principles for the community on Metronome and how it's
let me talk about Metronome for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I like coming up with features that simply don't exist in this world. I find that satisfying. I'll talk about the feature in a second, but the mindset is also important because, and I was saying this to a friend the other day, most social media platforms, if it's 2 people screaming obscenities at each other, that's good for the platform because that's an engagement, that's an interaction, that's what they want. They want to maximize interactions no matter how damaging or disgusting they are. Our mentality is we want good relationships between individuals and brands, and we want good interactions between them. And that involves giving people superpowers. And one of the superpowers is the ability, we call it metronome, the ability to set the cadence is for a brand, or I'll get into other things later on, but for a single brand, I can say, okay, you know what, Juventus, you're sending me too much information about the company. I really don't care about the company of Juventus. I care about the exclusive things I'm going to get from you. I should be able to turn the volume down on that type of information. And that's what Metronome is. So you can see it's got 3 buckets. Go back to the experiences, offers, and company information. You can determine how often in a set period you want to receive that information from the brand. And it's actually enforceable in the platform. They can't send you more information than you've asked for. And again, that's lowering interactions on the platform, which most platforms would cut off their hand before they would do that. But for us, it's exactly our mission. Good interactions, consensual interactions, give people power. So we're very proud of Metronome. And we also know that as we create other features, other ways to interact with brands, either anonymously or whatever, there'll always be a metronome aspect to it. So that means everything we launch, people are going to go, okay, what's my metronome power that I have in this? How can I actually control the pipes and the flow in the pipes? And that's so central for how we see the world.
Perfect, Luke. So just going through the rest of the interface, this is quite common for what you've seen before, but we have some unique features in how you've received that content. But just the navigation journey quickly. On the right, pull out You'll be able to bookmark your content like you normally do. You'll get notifications for certain types of content from brands or data subscriptions. And you can log in and out of different profiles that you've made. My profile is as an admin for several companies and an individual one. So every single individual can also set themselves up as a company, okay, because you are a brand and you can monetize your own audience and their attention if you're an influencer, which is a very unique way of thinking about it. Just from the left-hand side here, so one of the cores of the platform is My Profiler. This is where you capture very basic data. We're not obsessed with a lot of data. We're obsessed with very accurate data. Over here, you can see we've got digital identity already implemented in the platform. Users opt in after educating them. And reason for opting in is that there's many different permutations and use cases which we can offer as an upsell. Okay, it shows the level of individual, if they're technically inclined, and if they also want to attach their verified credentials like travel documentation to their actual digital ID and wallet on Profila. Then your personal data is general personal data. In that section, we will in future allow you to store first-party data. So some of your bank accounting details, some of your medical record details, but importantly, not all of it, because we don't want to be a honeypot for your data. We'll much rather help you extract the insights and then put it into a place that's very safe and secure. And we'll talk about the security in the design and how we're using technologies like zero-knowledge proofs, but mainly also multi-party computation to protect your data. And we've just spoken to a partner on how to actually host this information.
Well, maybe before you continue to explain self-discovery quizzes, I want to just give a small side note with personal information.
Yes.
So for the audience, if you can go back to the personal data section, this seems to be pretty basic, but it would be so useful if all of the brands or organizations in your life are connected to this small data set. I'll give you an example. I just moved. People move multiple times in their life, but I just moved, and the pain that I'm finding and the time that I'm losing to try to update my mere address with 30 or 40 companies, from my energy suppliers to my bank who are sending me information to my old address. I've already passed by 5 times to my old address to pick up mail, even though I'm paying for a paid service at the Belgian Postal Office to forward my mail. Imagine if you change your phone number. Imagine if you change your email. Imagine if you move and every brand is automatically updated with that information. You don't have to do anything. They just see it because they're linked to your profile. That's just one small use case. We go way further than this. That's just one small.
And you can easily imagine those companies, being powered by Profila, where that change of address, that change of phone number triggers some sort of process within their company of, okay, we've got to do whatever the inspection is, or whatever. Let's say the energy company, that it triggers a process they need to go through once they get an address change, and it's just automated.
And we're not talking about all of the good stuff where the commercial aspect comes from your products and your services that you're buying. This is purely personal data exchange on steroids.
Absolutely. So carrying on then for those watching, we designed a new way of doing self-assessments, okay? Because surveys, 99% are self-serving for the brand that sent them to you. Whereas if you're taking a survey for yourself on how do I ask better questions to build out the most important piece of data, which is psychographic data for a brand, how do you do that? So Luke has spent time, we've had researchers on this, but we're trying to keep it as simple as possible to asking questions about yourself, that makes sense. And this information, if you keep it up to date, is one of also our incentives using the Zeek token, is to help people and motivate them and incentivize them to keep this information up to date if you want to. Okay, but this information also belongs to you. Most survey results disappear, but every time you answer it or you update it, it becomes part of your Profila data set, so that over 5, 6, 7 years, you can see the evolution of your preferences. But more importantly, the brand gets to see, what they need to see to be able to offer you the fine service. Yeah. So we've got a few categories here, and we'll be expanding them as the industries ask for it. But Luke, while I'm jumping to another section of the app, just talk about the industry-specific research on what data does an industry actually need, to be able to deliver your services.
Well, a lot of it's just about the ability to put you in a more accurate box of, and actually the Juventus example that we put together for that is a good example. In building the quiz, it was about, okay, well, we should ask a question about where they consume, where they watch games. Do they watch them at home? Do they watch them at a pub? And then they could say, okay, well, we have special offers for people who are a pub. We got a QR code that gets you a free pint or something, whatever that is. But all these questions allow them to say, okay, here's the kind of person that they are, and here's how they consume the football club, or here's how they interact with the football club. Or even that first question was, which of the teams do they support? And so they may have a whole bunch of people that they don't realize support the women's Juventus team, that they can then send targeted offers, experiences, whatever, to folks who love women's football, and not clutter up the feed of people who just don't enjoy women's football for whatever reason. And that's the kind of thing they simply don't know now, because all they can base it on is observed behavior or just their own sense of what the market looks like. But once they know what's in my head and what's in my heart, in a consensual, trusted way, then they can stop sending me things I don't care about and start focusing on the things I do care about. And that makes that relationship better.
Correct. So how brands get access? So Michiel,
Yeah, maybe before jumping to that, I would quickly want to say why is Zeek, our Zeek token, relevant for this section? So we have our own zero knowledge token, which is called Zeek, which is a Swiss mountain dog linked to our Swiss heritage. And Zeek is both a utility and a payment token. Payment token will explain later, because brands will actually pay you for your attention in Zeek, or in dollars, and we convert in Zeek. But Zeek is also a utility token. We gamify the platform a little bit, like you have on Duolingo for language apps, because we know it takes a little bit of time to go through these quizzes. Even though you only have to do it once, and brands can then subscribe to that one quiz, you have to take a little bit of time. And so we're conscious about that, and we incentivize you to fill out these quizzes and to keep your personal data up to date with Zeek. So each time you fill in a quiz, we'll give you tokens, and you can build up a lot of these tokens, which you can either then cash out, sell on the DEX, or use for products and services. So this is a first use case, gamification through our utility token, Zeek.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Would you scroll up to the pub brand moment for a second, just so I can. Yeah. So again, this is only going to people who have said in the quiz that they watch games in a pub, and it's actually suggesting what's called a corner challenge that you can do with your friends while you're watching the game. That's a kind of targeted thing that we create this just as an example, but that's what brands can't do now with the current paradigm. And so, if I'm following them on Instagram, I'm getting the same message everybody's getting. It's one size fits all. They got to worry about the algorithm. It's such a simplistic way. And you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. We will look back at how marketing is done now, and we will marvel at how dumb it is. We will marvel at how inefficient and ineffective it is, because that's the tools the brands have. I don't blame brands at all. These are the tools they have, but now they have a better tool.
Absolutely. So let me carry on the journey, because I think people are keen to see the rest. So your data is the core and the gold. Just from an architecture, we have it in centrally hosted environments now, but we have already engaged with distributed infrastructure providers. So a person will be able to store their profiler off of the network in their own hard drives, or on an IPFS type service, or an IAGON type service in the future, so that you've got total control of that data asset. Even Profila, through the smart contracts, would need to get access to your data to run analytics on the platform. So it is 100% in your control. To educate people, we also have, I think, a first in a privacy center. Over here, it's literally a 3-click process to be able to choose a brand anywhere in the world, to be able to choose the right that you have, and then to create a rights assertion and send it. Okay, what happens in this process is at the moment we're sending these to our own address, but in future they'll be sent to Nike and to yourself with the legal documentation required to get the parties to speak to each other. Okay, so that you can solve the problem. In future, we'll give brands a place to actually answer these privacy rights assertions on the platform. But if you're keeping people true control, you have to give them the right to take those rights away from companies.
Yeah.
We've also got a privacy education section so people can be aware of their rights. So a lot of these are services to brands because this is their obligation to educate their consumers.
Yeah,
so a word on that, yeah.
Yeah, we always try to do good for both sides. We're not like privacy advocates that say brands are all bad, and we're not all for commercializing more data or selling more data to brands to misuse it. So we're trying to make tools, and this is again a tool that both helps a brand and a consumer or people. And so by the GDPR and other privacy regulations that are popping up everywhere in the world, a brand has an obligation to inform you about data subject rights. That's one legal obligation. And which brands almost never do, unless in their privacy policy hidden away. And the second obligation that they have is to help you exercise it and educate you about it. And so go to a website of a brand. If you find the privacy policy somewhere, maybe there's Article 17 that says data subject rights, which describes it in one paragraph. What we actually did is, this is an amazing hammer for a consumer and a tool for a consumer to like open the door towards a brand. We give it in a 3-click way, like Amazon lets you check out. On the one hand, it's then empowering consumers. On the other hand, it's helping brands be compliant with all of this privacy legislation. So it's really a perfect example of where we try to be the intermediate, helping both sides come closer together.
Perfect. We got a question from Music on YouTube, Musicali. How do you plan to create adoption, and ubiquity of the app? Now, this is a common question we get, and that's why I jumped to the brands section. So in Profila, we've got a 2 flywheel effect. We are a B2B2C company. So our main approach is going to brands and showing them that this is a better platform to use to have personal relationships with their customers. Then that brand will invite 100, 1,000, or even some brands we've spoken to have been interested in inviting hundreds of thousands of customers to the platform. Value add number 1 for the brand is a data quality exercise, but also a test to see if you tell your customer, come to Profila, we'll treat you better if you share the right data with us. Only the best customers will come, right? Because they have to do a bit of work because they want to build a relationship with your brand. So we believe that is a compelling value add for brands. And, we've spoken to organizations that have got 20 million in their database, of which 13 or 14 million are dormant. CRM is a burden on many companies because it's never updated. So that's value add number 1 on the flywheel effect. Number 2, as you can see, is we have a voting process. So you can go into Profila and let's see if we get something here in Cardano. So there's Cardano Community, Cardano Scan. We can invite companies. So let's invite the Cardano Foundation. So we vote for them to join the platform. Now that vote will actually come to our sales team, and then we will go out to that company and ask them to come and trial on the platform. But when a company is on Profila, there are 2 statuses of relationships. One is you connected to them first, which means that you've agreed to share some data, but anonymously. It's only demographics, country, sex. If you wanted to, you could toggle that on or off, and then they are able to market to you. So in this case, we did a trial with Verdad, but also the next relationship type is a data subscription. Now, this is where the brand has got to know you a little bit better. So in this case, here's Profila, and I'll actually go to one with Juventus. So this is the data that this brand has asked for. So they want to know my name, my age, where I live, an address so that they can send my package to me. Plus, they also want to know about my psychographics, because it's not only sports, it's like the detailed brand quiz. It's what food do I maybe like when I'm out and being entertained, and am I a fit person? And I've accepted all of these, but at any stage I can cancel. But during the acceptance stage, this is when our data subscription smart contract kicks off. As soon as you accept, a smart contract is created, and you'll receive an NFT in your wallet. We're partnering with Yoroi for the first wallet, and you will be able to see that for every brand that subscribed to you, an NFT. And then over time, if you cancel, then the contract ends and the NFT gets burnt. If the brand cancels or the subscription comes to the end of its duration, then the NFT is burnt. So we've got a formal governance structure in place for how you actually share data, which I think is new and unique.
And maybe to add to that, as a second response to the question, of course, in an ideal world, you have 100 million consumers on Profila, so that you can go to a brand and say, come here, and you have 100 million consumers that you can advertise to. Or the opposite way, every brand in the world is on Profila, and then you can just tell consumers, come and engage with them. But so we decided this B2B2C model, because if a brand like a Radisson Hotel with 20 million customers invites its 20 million customers and gets a connection with them on Profila, let's say with 5% of them, there's you as a consumer can understand that all of a sudden, because you told them that now you want to receive only messages via WhatsApp twice a year, that your emails from Radisson stop. And so then you have this feeling of power, like, wow, I told this brand to do something else. I told this brand to stop sending me via mail and send me via another channel, send me way less frequent than before, and they listen to it. And now all of a sudden, I get this way more personalized message via the channel of my choice. And so this aha moment with the consumer would be the validation that it works with a brand and that it could work with multiple brands. And there we will try to get this network effect of a positive relationship with the first brand that invited you, you voting for additional brands that you interact with on a day-to-day basis to see if you could, like, if we could onboard multiple brands at the same time.
Correct. And you can see the different relationship types too. So you don't always have to be a subscription where they know everything about you. And this is the problem too with newsletters or so on. There's only a subscribe. So either you're married or you're divorced, which doesn't make sense. But if you want to break and you want to share less data, then you go down to the connection status. Or if you want to have a longer term break, you can actually archive the brand at the bottom, but then you can at any stage go back and reconnect to that actual brand. So we're trying to make it, user centric, but also not waste the brand's time. Let's jump into the exciting part.
Sure. I like the following question as well, which says consumers, thanks music. Consumers are lazy and the biggest impulse spenders are kids and young adults, and they're less concerned about privacy and entertainment. Do you feel the market can be captured with minimal effort? Now, I think Zeek will help. Zeek will help gamify for young people and young adults. You're being paid to take this step. You're being paid to be active on the platform. And I would counter the idea that young adults are less concerned about their privacy. I think it's becoming more and more awareness that your attention also is valued. And it's extremely mediatized, the privacy concerns that happened with Facebook. I find that young adults are becoming extremely more vocal about the environment and about their rights. So I think there's definitely a market for this kind of product.
And I think on top of that, we're very conscious in our design that this has to take as little time as possible. And mature Profila, your main task is answering questions about yourself. And people like to answer questions about themselves. They take quizzes online all the time with no value besides finding out what Harry Potter house they'd be in based on 10 questions. So I think that, and then just seeing feeds of information that's relevant, which also doesn't take a lot of effort as well.
Yeah. This aha moment.
Yeah. So I think if you think about minimal effort, think about how much effort we waste now in our feeds of, again, seeing things we have to scroll past because it's not relevant for us or it upsets us or whatever. That's what you can take away. We want people to be able to curate their entire experience with us, which they can't now because, again, it's not in the platform's incentive to do that. They don't want you to curate too much. Imagine if Twitter allowed you to say, okay, I will only see replies from people that I follow. You'd probably have a little bit less contentiousness on Twitter, but that's not good for Twitter. That's good for the people, if that was the case, but it's not good for Twitter, and therefore they don't do it.
Plus, the biggest incentive too for some people, not for many, is just to see that my attention is respected. And as you can see here, something which many people don't know, but on Brave you get paid for your attention. On Profila, you get paid for your data and your attention and much more. Okay, so our first basis line is that any amount of money that a brand pays to access your data, remember it's never sold, and to send you advertising content, if you engage with it, then you receive 50% of that. And over time, we'll scale that up to 90% that you will receive based on the quality of your profiler and engagement. because then we've got two happy relationships. We've got a profile that brands want. They're sending you content that you're happy with and engaging with. So then you receive the maximum reward. So I think out of all the models we've seen out there, it's the one that cultivates valued relationships, not just making a few dollars from selling your data or your attention, because we think that's suboptimal. Use the power, and I think to answer Muzik again, and we'll answer you anytime, by the way, is that people want better valued relationships and less clutter. It was actually the first time some TikTok research where the students are saying, people are saying that they wish they didn't get sucked in so deep. Anyway, I'm just going to navigate a little bit more around so we can show the rest of the platform. But over here, you have a Connect Wallet approach, and we'll be able to connect a Yoroi wallet. And then my wallet is connected through the browser as an extension. And then any payouts that happen now for Zeek. So we're going to be paying out in the Zeek token. Sorry, that should say switched to ADA. So in your wallet, you can then swap it to ADA if you want. But we encourage you to keep it as Zeek. Do you know why? Because your Zeek to a brand will represent the value of your data. Because if you've accumulated Zeek over a year or two for many, many brands' engagements, then they can see, that your Zeek value, which is part of our gamification, is high. And that's the way I think that will drive exponential value into the token itself. Michiel, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I also want to say, digital advertising is almost a $900 billion industry, and we don't have to have many brands to become, to have a large volume of cash flowing through the platform. Understand that every dollar that a brand spends is split in two. We keep 50% as the platform, and with 50% we buy back Zeek on the market to pay you out in Zeek. So this will also create a huge liquidity around the utility token that is given away on the platform. And in terms of percentages, is about 30% that we're giving away for free. So 30% of our entire token supply will be given away for use in the app. I can't say for free, but for users in the app, they get it for doing certain actions.
Exactly. I'll give you a quick glimpse, because that's all been the user interaction, and give you a quick glimpse of the brand's interaction before we wrap up. But we'll have metrics. We're using our own version of open sourced Metabase. We're hosting our own infrastructure. So we can do customized dashboarding for any brand, but we'll have the standards available. And then any connections. So this is when you're in an anonymous status. You can share your nickname. So if you want your name as your nickname and just basic demographics or nothing. Okay, some people have chosen to share nothing, but they're still connected with the brand. The next status is subscription. So if there's a person who's accepted the subscription, then you can see that data is now available to the brand and they can do better targeting. Over here, we've got a way to create lists. So the foundation of the platform is, as we said, is snowboarders, people in USA, subscribers, which is all people with subscriptions, to be able to filter out and highly target, but with no direct access to the actual data using multi-party computation and other techniques, is extremely unique in the market. Then next we have the capability to develop campaigns. So this is a basic campaign management tool where you can actually create a brand moment, and you can have a sequence of events, whether it's this brand moment gets shown after a user clicks an ad, or even if they just see it, or if they like it or tag it, then you can have a follow-on ad and a follow-on ad. But please remember, these aren't just ads. As you can see here with Profila, it's information. We've tested this use case in healthcare for clinical trials, for a doctor sharing a document with you here. Because remember, this is private. It's not like you're sending this data to everybody. So this same process can be applied to many different industries. But I think for brands, in the first use case, they'll get to see the value of a much simplified but direct and personal marketing platform. The subscription offers, this is the offer that was sent out, those that are live and expired. And this is the legalese part. So this is a brand fully compliant, no more risk of being fined for misuse of data, almost a 99% reduction on risk, okay, on your privacy liability, because the data is sitting somewhere else and the user is in charge of it. But you're still getting your insights. So it makes a huge difference to the industry. On the company information side, as I mentioned earlier, for the user, we've got digital IDs, but also for the brand, we've got digital IDs. We've got a great strategy in future where every relationship through those data subscriptions will be linked to a unique new digital ID from your data, linking back to your Genesis ID. Not only does that further, give you more privacy at a deeper level, it also gives us a lot of different use cases of bundling data to specific brands, that need that data set, but in a lovely and anonymous way. So I think what people can see, and maybe Luke, you want to add something on there, is we've really gone for a basic approach. Yeah. I can talk forever on this, but
I'm just conscious of the time here.
Yeah.
Cool. Your camera's gone though. So are you here?
We have a big pitch in 3 minutes. So
okay.
Yeah.
No, I want to finish this one off properly, so I don't mind if we run late for that one. And then payment information, this will be attached soon where the brands will get a ledger of everything that they've paid to us so that we can then on-pay that to the individual. As a summary, I think, and I can stop the presentation now. If there's anything that we want feedback on is, the simplicity of the use case and the opportunity to show it to companies. We have over the last years, but the platform's at a stage where it's ready to roll. We are doing live trials on it. We've got a unique strategy in web apps where you can load it onto a laptop and a mobile device, which gives us more security. So I think a couple of final words, Michiel and Luke, as we wrap up. I know there's a lot of content, but we will be doing this more often during the next couple of weeks so that people can become a lot more familiar with Profila and the platform. Michiel?
Yeah, we'll probably start giving a daily demo now so that also just everybody can have a look at it. Thanks for the questions already.
Go to more depth on some of the specifics. So yeah, come back for more.
Well, I hope Music likes it. That's incredible point, Michiel. 100% agree to your last statement, which is nice. Thank you. So yeah, thank you for all those as a parting thought who have supported us over the years. It's been an interesting journey, but we're at the stage now where we're proud of what we've got. We've got very strong Web3 credentials in what we've implemented. And we're very excited for our Zero Knowledge token to represent the value of your data, not only to yourself and to the crypto community, but to brands. Okay. One final thing, in case people forget, this company was started for you. Okay, so everything was built around you as an individual, not for a brand. However, we had to give you a way to be able to share information with many companies. And Michiel, you had another thought.
Yeah. Like last 30 seconds, we've already been funded 12 times on Catalyst and delivered 12 projects, so we're pretty reliable, I think. And now we have 2 great projects in the pipeline. I know the voter registration closed yesterday and voting is starting tomorrow, I think. Check out our partnership project with Amber Wallet, which is bringing ADA payments to Telegram. It's a huge one, would be a huge benefit. Also for ADA, and check out our partner project with Unbox Universe, which is a great company bringing smart programmable tokens to Cardano. So yeah, vote.
Awesome.
Go out there and vote after the US elections.
Thanks, community, and anyone who knows us, send us a DM. We'll hook you up with a demo. If you want to talk, if you want to help us, please catch up, and we will see you again on plenty more live spaces. Thanks. And
bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.